In this episode, I talk with Carrie about WordPress for course creators, teaching courses for Lynda.com, and much more.
Welcome to the Online Course Coach Podcast, brought to you by TrueFocusMedia.com. Whether you're a beginner or expert, this is the podcast for the latest in online course creation tips, news, interviews, and ideas. And here's your coach, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Online Course Coach Podcast, where if you're brand new, this is the podcast to learn about anything regarding online courses. So whether you're just thinking about creating a course and just trying to get your bearings, or maybe you have an idea and you want that next step, or maybe you've actually created that course and you want to learn some really cool marketing strategies, we cover all the aspects. Today we have a really good show. I met Carrie at Social Media Marketing World, and I was just going to ask her a couple questions, almost like give her, 2 or 3 questions. And then I started talking with her, found out she's been a Lynda.com trainer, has done some really cool things. So I knew I had to bring her on the show to go a little more in depth. And so we'll be talking about various aspects of WordPress, why you should consider it, and even the pros and cons of building your course on the WordPress platform. So if you're confused with what I just said, we'll go into some more details here in a minute. And then as some of you know, I'm a big fan of using WordPress, and I have a few resources that will help you out that I just want to let you know about. So the first one is the resource that will help you learn the best plugins, themes, and hosting for your WordPress website. I also have a 7-step checklist to know the best software to use to build your course. So it walks you through, is WordPress a good resource for you, or is a different done-for-you service a good option? So you can actually find both of these resources on the resource page. So if you go to onlinecoursecoach.com, you can see there in the menu a resources page. You can get it directly by going to onlinecoursecoach.com/resources. So regardless if you're brand new to WordPress or if you've been using it for a while, you definitely want to check out those resources, because honestly, that is one of the top questions I get asked is, where should I put my course? And is WordPress really a good platform to use for courses? Those are a lot of in the top 5. And so definitely check out those resources. That will help answer a lot of questions. And I give my resources for best themes, plugins, hosting, and more in the other resource. So I wanted to have Carrie on the podcast because, first of all, I think it's pretty cool that she's a trainer for Lynda.com. And when I heard that, I was interested just to learn more because, I've been using Lynda.com for years. And, it's just one of those things that they're such a powerhouse in the training, the course industry, that I wanted to talk to her about that. But I also wanted to talk to her about WordPress, how she's using it, how she learned it, even some recommendations on themes and plugins and how normal people, not developers or designers, how just normal people can use WordPress. But right before we get into the show, this episode is brought to you by Easy Video for Courses. Did you know that online courses that include video are 83% more effective in helping the students remember the information better? But as you know, one of the hardest parts of creating a course is really knowing how to create effective course videos. Not just boring videos or boring PowerPoints or just something you throw together, but effective course videos. And I've found that most people struggle with all the confusing equipment or software that's available, the cost of buying equipment, or they don't feel confident in front of the camera. And maybe that's you. Maybe you struggle with one or all of those. And that's really why I created Easy Video for Courses. My background is in video production. I've done it all as far as creating high-end videos as well as simple videos, even with an iPhone. So I've really taken all the confusion out of the process so you can make effective course videos in half the time, even if you don't like being on camera. So I go through how to make videos on your iPhone or tablet, what cameras to buy if you want to be cheap or if you want to have it look, high end, what software you might want to use and how to use it, as well as where I find really cool graphics, photos, and videos to use in my course videos. I even show you, for some of you, you really want to use PowerPoint, and that's fine. There's a time and place for that. I show you my number one resource to find really high quality designs, PowerPoint designs and templates where you don't have to be a designer. You just plug in the content and they supply the design and it looks fantastic. So you can go to easyvideoforcourses.com to learn more and get the course. All right, well, let's get into the interview with Carrie Dills. A little bit about her is she is a developer with 20 years of experience in web development and deep experience in full-scope WordPress projects. From small, locally owned businesses to Fortune 500 companies, including Disney and NVIDIA, Carrie has worked with clients to deliver creative and successful digital solutions. She's passionate about education and empowering others to do the work they love. She hosts the OfficeHours.fm podcast for digital freelancers and small business owners. And she teaches WordPress and front-end development courses for Lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning. And then we talk about in the podcast the series of business courses for freelancers she has at the fearlessfreelancer.com. So Carrie, thanks so much for being on the Online Course Coach podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, so I know your background is a little bit with development and you have courses and you offer some really cool things, but kind of go back a little bit and what is your background and how did you get started in the business that you're in?
Sure. So I kind of came in through the back door, I guess. I started out just working in software and, desk jobs, that sort of thing. And at some point became just tired of living the cubicle life. So I took a respite, an almost decade-long respite, going to work for Starbucks. I had this crazy idea that if I could learn the coffee business, I could open my own coffee shop. And then after 9 years, I determined I never, ever wanted to own a coffee shop. But after that, it was actually the manager I was working with right before I left Starbucks who was telling me about WordPress. And, a lot of the things that he was describing WordPress could do, those are things that I had done manually in the past, like, creating a content management system and all those database relationships and just gross, like not fun development work. And when I found out that WordPress could do that out of the box, I was all over it. So from there, I just started, finding clients and that needed a simple marketing website and, did that for, probably the past 5-6 years and eventually sort of migrated over into teaching just as a way to, frankly, try something different, get into a little bit of a different space.
Yeah. So a lot of times, and I'm sure as you've talked with people, a lot of people have heard about WordPress, but they think of it just as, I had somebody just tell me the other day, they're like, oh, that's just for bloggers or for, people with little websites. I need something robust, something real. How would you answer that question when somebody minimizes what all WordPress can do?
I would say that when I was working for an agency that serviced enterprise level clients, Disney uses WordPress. MSN uses WordPress. I mean, some of the top Fortune 500 companies or even top 50 companies are using WordPress. So it's no longer, even though it started out as a blogging platform, it has really matured over the years into a fully featured content management system. And that's not to say that it's right for every single web project out in the world. But certainly it is a great choice for a lot of them.
Yeah, no. So you got started, somebody mentioned WordPress to you. You were kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. How did you go from, knowing nothing about WordPress to who you are today, knowing so much of the code, the back end, everything? How did you get to where you are today? Because a lot of people could look at WordPress and they're like, I don't want to learn code or I don't care about that stuff. And I'm sure for a lot of people it's not necessary. But for you, why did you go that direction of getting into the guts and the code of WordPress?
I think it's just because of my background as a developer. That's the part that interested me. I want to understand. Even as a kid, I would unscrew every thing I could find that had a screw in it to see what was going on inside of it and see how it worked. And there's, when you want to learn something, you just consume all of the material that you can find about it. And that's one of the things about WordPress. There is no shortage of information online for learning how to use and work with WordPress. And it took me a while to figure out, because WordPress is broad, right? There's the underlying code base, then there's these things called themes that control the appearance, and these other things called plugins that add, some sort of specific functionality. And even if you go into any one of those, just say themes, for example. Okay, well, there are thousands of themes out there. What's a good theme? What makes a bad theme? So it was just a lot of consuming information to try to educate myself, and then also inserting myself into conversations about WordPress. And you could do that pretty easily on social media by, just following hashtags, and you get to know people, the faces that show up in those conversations over time. But eventually, like the haphazard kind of reading, figured things out and piecemealing together the information, that takes a lot of effort. And so to supplement that, I went over to lynda.com and started watching their WordPress training videos to sort of get a more formal introduction, as it were.
Yeah. So I want to get into the lynda.com stuff here in a second, because that's so fascinating to me. But with WordPress, there's so many ways to create courses through different plugins and different integrations. But why would a course creator want to use WordPress versus some of the software as a service or the done-for-you kind of, systems that are not WordPress built? What's the benefit of using WordPress?
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to money and sharing money for your creations. There are lots of platforms like Teachable or Udemy or, Envato Marketplace, places like that where you can upload, they give you this beautiful platform that's sort of as simple as, clicking through 1 2 3 upload here and, write your course intro in this box and hit publish. So it's a very guided experience on a beautiful platform, and you get exposure to their audience. But the price you pay for that is, a certain percentage of your income that you're making off of those courses. On the other hand, with WordPress, it's open source software. And even though there are paid components that you'd probably want to use, for the most part, it's an inexpensive way, and I'm going to put an asterisk on inexpensive way to get started producing and publishing your own content. Now, coming back to that asterisk, I mean that because while it's all free and they're ready to use, there is a definite learning curve there. For me, since that's what I am doing for a living anyways, I'm not having to pay a developer or pay a designer or someone to go do these things for me. All it costs me is my time. Yeah. But for someone else that's not super comfortable navigating that world, they can try the DIY approach, which is great to a certain extent, but then you get frustrated and you don't have anyone to, kind of come along and assist you, or you hire someone out and that's expensive. So it's just sort of, those are the pros and cons that are at a really high level. Is, do you want to share, your profits with anyone and get exposure to their audience for that price or not?
Yeah. And I love that there's so many options out there. It's really not a one size fits all. For person A, WordPress, and the integrations and plugins might be fantastic. For person B, it might be terrible. And so to me, that's a good thing that we have choices available to us.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go too far into a rabbit hole, but I just want to get your expertise for a minute on themes. So, as you and I have probably both experienced, there's thousands of themes out there. So you might have somebody that just Googles like, what's a great theme, WordPress theme, and they download it. Why is that dangerous, or what should somebody look for when finding a theme? Should they go free or paid? And what are some of those things to look for in a theme?
Oh,
and I know you could probably speak for hours on this. So
yeah,
brief overview
I'll try
here.
to keep it. Try to keep it brief. The one thing to note is that not all themes are created equal. And even because a theme is more expensive doesn't necessarily mean that it's a higher quality. And I'll unpack kind of two things to know or look for on themes. One is, does it try to include every feature under the sun? Like, this comes with 100 color combinations. We've got 3 sliders, photo galleries, stairways you can climb, and it'll wash your car. Like, those sorts of things are very code heavy, and why that matters to you as someone offering your courses. If your page is going to take for jillion seconds to load because there's so much gross code underneath there, your students are not going to stick around, or they probably won't even become your students in the first place. So code bloat and really the way to look for that is just themes that are overly featured, just turn the other direction. And the second is SEO, search engine optimization. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the previous thing, but Google loves clean, well-formed code. You might hear people throw around this term called schema, which is basically, some HTML tags that tell Google, hey, this is exactly this is educational content, for example. This is blog content. And some themes are going to come with that built in automatically. Studio Press is one theme house that I recommend like wholeheartedly. I use it for a ton of projects. I love it. There are certainly others out there, but those would be the two things: code bloat and something that says that it's got HTML5 markup and SEO friendly. That doesn't mean the theme does your SEO work for you. It just means that it's giving you a good foundation to start from.
Yeah, that's good. I like the illustration you use about a theme that has everything under the sun and how that's dangerous. And it's a similar thing that I recommend. So very cool. So you briefly mentioned a couple minutes ago that you had been doing, WordPress development and learning more and all that. And you went to lynda.com. So you were learning a lot of things. Now, I know that you are now a lynda.com instructor. How did you get from student to instructor? That's pretty cool.
I love this story because for me, it's like anything is possible. The student can become the teacher. Not just me, but the folks listening to your show. I think that's true across the board. I've been a consumer of Lynda's content before. She's an actual person. Before lynda.com came around. So she was printing traditional, print books, HTML, CSS, et cetera, in the 90s. And well, I'm dating myself, but I don't care. So I've always enjoyed learning kind of her learning style. It's very well polished. It's beautiful, and like the books were really pretty and fun to hold and fun to read. And so when it came to, wanting to learn WordPress, that was just the kind of no-brainer place for me to go look for help. So I took these WordPress courses that they had on there, and they had one WordPress instructor. His name is Morten Rand Hendrickson, a fantastic fellow. And I spent hours with Morten virtually. He didn't know I was spending hours with him, but I was learning from him. And at WordCamp San Francisco, maybe this was 2013. I can't remember. But anyways, I saw Morten was there, and I got to meet him in person. And I mean, it was like meeting a rock star. And, I'm sure I probably embarrassed him because, yeah. But anyways, so after that, Morten and I kind of struck up this dialogue. And, at that point, I was feeling much more solid in my, kind of getting along with my WordPress ways. And I don't know, maybe a year or so later, Morton just asked. He said, "Hey, would you be interested in teaching some WordPress courses?" And I mean, I think I probably had to shovel my jaw up off the floor because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like me,
Right.
little old me." But I did, and I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now, and it's a neat experience too. And I think that's what's uh, given me the confidence to kind of go out on my own and do some self-produced courses at this point.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, talk to me, and I don't know what you are or are not able to say here, but what's it like to be a lynda.com instructor, and how do you prep and deliver courses for them?
Yeah, so they have a physical location that you go to. It's out in California. To go do recording. So they have, these recording studios, and it is all like equipment to the nines, and all the people that are working on their video and sound are people that have come from Hollywood. I mean, it is really a best in class facility. So it's not just me with my echoey microphone here, in my pajamas teaching,
Right.
teaching courses. So they handle all the technical aspects. So my job as the instructor is to kind of the first step is to come up with a course outline. Here's what the material is going to cover. Here's how many videos I want to cover it in. And they have recommendations like no particular video should, you want to shoot for 3 to 5 minutes. People's attention spans aren't crazy long. So once the course outline, I'm working with a producer a content producer to make sure that that looks good and jives with what they want. Then I go through and I actually script the entire course. Some people are great at just getting bullet points and then going off the cuff. But I sound like what I just sounded like, a bunch of ums and I all of a sudden become, like I have never spoken to a human before.
Right.
If I try to just go off the cuff. So I found that scripting works best for me, and what the actual recording experience is like. And this is going to vary based on the type of material someone is teaching. But for me, it's just it's screen capturing my monitor, and then it's just me talking into a microphone, kind of leading through the steps of what I'm doing online and explaining things as I go. They have full sound stages, and I mean, Lynda teaches a lot of courses, everything from photography, these huge creative courses, painting. So they have these big sound stages where you can, somebody will actually have their painting palette on there and, fun stuff like that. But no, I'm just in a sound booth. So really my responsibility is to show up. It usually takes me about a week. I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 hours to record what eventually boils down to maybe a 3-hour course.
Now, give the listeners some ways to translate maybe what you've learned as a lynda.com instructor, maybe their processes or things you've just learned to make things more efficient. Like, how can a non-lynda.com instructor create better courses because of what you've learned?
Yeah, so this is happy to share it because this is kind of what my takeaway has been. So going back to that course outline at the very beginning, before you ever start creating course material, get it really clear what it is. I mean, start by writing a statement like, after someone takes this course, they should be able to blank, blank, and blank. Now those may change. Courses tend to, get opinions of their own as you get into them. So it's possible that you may change that before it's all said and done, but start with a really clear expectation of what you want your students to have accomplished when they finish. And then from there, just kind of work backwards, creating a table of contents. So maybe 5 chapters or 10 chapters with a few I'm thinking of Reddit channels now, but anyways, nested, your your list of materials that you want to cover, and then from there, just start kind of fleshing it out. Another thing that they had me do at Lynda and this was sort of an after the fact thing, but I think it'd probably be more effective if you did it before. So like we were saying, that beginning statement, a student should be able to do blank, blank, and blank when they finish this course. Well, for each movie in the course or lesson, if you're not doing a recorded course, just think about like you're writing a tweet. So you're limited to 140 characters, old school Twitter. What's somebody going to learn in this video? So maybe if it's WordPress, it's in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a post. In this video, I'm going to show you how to upload a media image and crop it. So it's very short, succinct. And the reason for that is that, and I don't know how much this, depending on how someone listening to this is presenting their material, like if you're selling an entire course, and somebody's got to make their way through the whole thing, or if you're selling more modules where people can browse and say, ooh, like point and choose, like this is the little piece of pie I want off the buffet. Yeah. But when you're writing those little summary statements, that helps a student or potential student identify with, okay, that's something I want to learn how to do. So yes, I'm in the right place. So hopefully that helps a little.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm always loving, that's one of the reasons for this podcast, right? Is to learn from others and help beginners learn and different things. So I like all that you said. One of the exercises I go through with some of my coaching students when we're planning out a course is, what do you want the overall course? What do you want the student to know, feel, and do? And then even each lesson or module, even if it's a 3-minute, 5-minute lesson, obviously we want to transfer knowledge. That's the know. But is there an emotion we want, that student to get out of it? Maybe it's finding success or feeling like they've learned something or whatever. And then obviously we want them to do something about it. We want them to put it into place and take action. And so I like that what you said was very similar. Have that outline, know what you're going to say. Don't just throw it together haphazardly.
I like the feel that you just added to there. That's great because I want people to feel empowered or more confident to do something or try something after they've taken a course. And, normally I don't think about the word feel when it comes to teaching.
Right, exactly.
That's a great word to use.
Well, and it kind of goes back to, when you sell something. So for instance, if you have a course about, how to build a WordPress website, you want to talk more about the benefits, what they're going to get out of that. Hey, imagine if you could build your own website, you wouldn't have to have your own developer, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the feel, you're kind of getting them excited versus, hey, we're going to be covering plugins and themes and HTML, that's more the know part. And so, with anything selling, if you can cast the vision for what life will look like once they learn and master this material, that's kind of that feel part of the equation.
Yeah, I need to work on that. As a developer, I think linearly.
Absolutely.
And I forget the feels.
Yeah.
I forget to include the feels.
Well, and one of the reasons...
That's a good reminder for me.
Well, good. No, well, one of the reasons I kind of have that in my process is because I'm the same way. I kind of forget about that, so it's easy to talk about the features and not the benefits. And it's easy to talk about the know, but not the feels, like you just said. I love that. Yeah. So, we've talked about your background, why WordPress is great, and even some really cool things you've learned while teaching at lynda.com. Now, I understand you have your own courses. So talk to me about why you started creating your own online courses for your audience.
Yeah. So something I've been very passionate about as I've been interacting with a lot of other WordPress it draws a lot of small business owners or people that want to leverage WordPress as a service to sell other people. So, hey, I'll make you a website. Hey, I'll, set up your store so that you can sell your things online. There are a lot of service providers in this space, and it's a crowded and competitive space. And the thing that is I've noticed is lacking. A lot of people aren't making a good living doing it. So I see them on Slack or on Facebook or whatnot, and they're struggling. And of course, that's not everybody, and I don't have necessarily all the answers, but I have been doing this in some form or format for a very long time, and I make a good living. I'm not rich. I don't own a yacht, but I guess I have what you would call a lifestyle business. Yeah. I work enough to pay my bills and do the things I enjoy. And I would like to teach others how to do that. And of course, the person I most identify with is other WordPress developers or developers and designers. So, Jeff, that is a really long-winded answer to getting around to your question of why I created business courses for freelancers was to sort of address that. So getting a firm foundation under your feet when you're establishing your business and really just doing the things to set you up for success so that, 2 years from now, you're not like, well, this didn't work. I'm going back to the cubicle. Yeah. Because I wouldn't wish the cubicle on anyone unless that's just their thing, whatever.
Right. That's funny.
But in terms of, I wanted to, after having done these courses on the Lynda platform, I wanted to try my hand at self-producing courses and just see what that was like. And the courses that I've published on my own are a completely different flavor. And I don't want to say quality. It's me teaching, but the delivery format. So for example, the courses I've done on my own they're written. There's very little video. So it's just a different style of, I guess, delivering the information. But I was sort of, I don't know. Can I say it was on my bucket list? I wanted to self-publish.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome. I love that. And I wish I would have had, something similar when I was first starting because, I kind of foolishly thought, hey, I've learned the craft. Now people are going to call me. And people don't always call, right? If you're not networking, if you're not serving, if you're not solving problems. And so I'm glad that you have these courses. So go into a little more depth about the fearlessfreelancer.com. What courses are there and how are you helping people grow?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. Right now there's 5 courses covering what I'm calling it sort of freelancing foundations. The first is up and running, just like literally here's how these are the types of bank accounts you need to open. Here's the things to think about from are you going to be an LLC, a sole proprietor? Here's how you think through those issues. I mean, it's just business 101, money management, budgeting, all that 101. And then moving from there to a topic near and dear to my heart, which is finding your focus. AKA, what the hell am I doing? And do I want to
Is that officially in the title or tagline?
No, it's not. It's family friendly.
There we go.
So sorry if I just gave you an explicit rating on iTunes. You can bleep me out. But, you talked earlier about, okay, I've got this craft or I've got this skill. Well, that's great. So do a million other people, and a lot of them who can work for much more cheaply than you because they have a lower cost of living than you do. So when it comes to focus, like how are you going to, first of all, what is your passion? Who is it that you want to serve, that you want to help? And then secondly, what's unique about how you're going to solve their problems? And really, I think I'm going on long-winded. I'm sorry.
No.
But if I could just diverge and teach part of the class right here for a second.
We're all ears.
But instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to build you a website, that's a vendor mentality. To say, hey, what are the problems that you're having in your business, and let me think about how I can help you solve those with technology. That's a partner. Yeah. And partners are highly valued, and people pay more for partners than they do for vendors. Anyways, that's a quick aside. But from there into some basic marketing. And then I've also got a course on legal matters. So things to know when you're writing contracts or, setting up invoices or master services agreement, what to know about copyrights, trademarks, just sort of all the legal gotchas.
Yeah.
So even like using stock photography, or when is it okay to use music or not use music in a podcast or a YouTube video, or just things I wish I'd known.
Yeah. No, and I love that because like you mentioned the whole, are you a service provider or a partner? And I was in California a year or two ago as part of a course I bought, a kind of a high-end course. And there was a 2-day kind of mastermind event for, I don't know, 30 or 40 of us. And we were all somewhat in the same industry or had this, we were moving in the same direction. And probably within those 2 days, everybody raised their hand and said something like, I'm really bad at sales, or I hate selling, but. And over the course of 2 days, I kind of raised my hand. I was like, man, like, listen, you're not in the industry of selling. You're really in the industry of serving and problem solving. And when you look at business that way, to me, it makes business so much easier. I was
yes,
it
absolutely easier.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off me. I don't want to have a slick sales pitch and a upsell this and a closing that. I just want to say, okay, what problems are you having? How can we leverage technology or use this or that, whether it's courses or WordPress or whatever it is. And to me, that's been the foundation of my success over the years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And like you said, when clients start calling you with problems, like, hey, like I just had a call with a out-of-state client who runs a big insurance agency kind of nationwide. And he had this problem. Hey, I want to, how can we do X or Y or what? So I was able to say, hey, what if we did A, B, or C? Which fits best for you? And then we were able to, create a plan of action and move ahead. And, I didn't have to pitch him. I didn't have to beg him or, like.
Yeah, that's the golden spot. And when you do that over time, it's just it's a compounding interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I saw on your website and some other things, I believe you've had some different courses, obviously, and masterminds and Facebook groups. And so how are you using these different strategies to add more value to your either existing students or people you hope become students in the future?
So I would also say that I am terrible at selling. Marketing has never been my strong suit. What does come very naturally for me is building relationships.
Yeah.
And I've started doing that when I started working with WordPress, and it was not with the intention to sell anything because I didn't even have anything to sell at that point. But what I've learned over time is that building relationships and just kind of like you said, showing up, being helpful.
Yeah.
That over time that builds trust, it builds community. And so I do have these little pockets of community. I've tried different things over the past few years. I tried a membership based site where everything was behind a login. I tried a Slack community, and now I've more recently moved over to Facebook a little bit with my heels grounded in because I don't love Facebook. But that seemed to be, that's where people already are, and it's a more natural place for conversation to happen. So doing that, and really that Facebook community in particular is so new that it's less than 6 months old. I haven't tried selling in there. Other than when I launched the Fearless Freelancer, I did say, hey, FYI, I launched these courses. Here's a coupon if you want it. But I didn't prime that audience. I wasn't marketing it ahead of time or anything like that. Like, I feel that there's still a little bit that needs to be nurtured more before I just come in and start selling things.
Sure.
My email list has probably been the number one place I've gotten sales from. And those are just people that have come in and found content helpful on my website, signed up for my list at some point over the years. And when I say, hey, here's something new I have, some of them responded to that. And so anybody listening, if you don't have an email list yet, get one. And don't despair if it's just your mother and your best friend on there. But I actually think it's easier if you have a teeny tiny list, because from the very beginning, start segmenting. Segment people by their interest, why they signed up for your list. So like for me, I write a lot of my articles fall under two buckets, either technical or business related. Well, somebody who signs up for my newsletter on a business article probably does not care about my latest WordPress how-to,
Right.
And vice versa. So I'm just now kind of starting to segment and understand who those people are. And so I think if for someone just starting out, start that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you'll have an easier time of it when you're ready to actually sell to that audience. I don't know if I answered your question, because I just rambled.
No, I think that's good. And I love what you said about email. And that is, I mean, that's one of the main things I see with successful course creators that I interview is they have, and it sounds so almost offensive, like an email list, it sounds non-personal and salesy, but at the same time, it's a direct way that you can communicate to your audience. And so I like that you said, start segmenting as soon as possible. So like I'm a big ConvertKit user and fan. And so, you can create like 3 different options in an email and say, hey, person, how would you identify yourself? Are you a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or, whatever kind of 3 buckets you might put people in, and start segmenting that way. And so you can do some really cool things with that in ConvertKit. That's a whole different training, whole different podcast. But yeah, I love that you said, start building that list. And one of the things I recommend to build that list is offer bonuses, guides, checklist, and things like that to entice people, to get on that email list.
Yeah, absolutely. People are tired of giving their email address away.
Yeah. It has to be,
for everything.
Like
you've got to give some value in exchange.
Well, and that's like on your site, I see that you have like a free, is it a mini course or something where somebody can sign up and get content? And that's another strategy I talk about a lot is the perceived value, which is correct, in a course, whether it's free or paid. And so, offering a free mini course, whether it's 3 lessons or whatever that is, to get people to, sign up is a fantastic deal. Because like you said, nobody wants to sign up for, hey, sign up for my newsletter. Like that's so, I don't know, 1990, whatever or something. But
well, and with the giveaway, whether it's I know people say ebooks are trending out, downward. I don't know if that's true or not, but I chose to go with the course, a free e-course, since it is a site with courses.
Yeah.
And for me, that's, if someone is not ready to pull the trigger and give me money, let them take my e-course and get to know me and my style. And then that way they can figure out whether there's value there for them to, go take a paid course or not. It's just an opportunity to get to know a person and their style.
Well, and it's so interesting. I am in the process of learning something brand new that's outside of my own business or whatever. I'm kind of vague. I understand that, but anyway, I'm
like, do tell.
I know. It's just anyway, just a personal hobby, I guess you could call it, or interest. And so, I've been on YouTube looking for different experts, and it's really, really cool, especially being the online course coach or whatever, to see people that are giving value. And then occasionally they say, hey, check out my ebook. I've already bought several ebooks on Amazon just based on their promotion. And then some of them have courses, and I'm thinking, okay, when I learn X, Y, and Z, I'll be at a point where I think I should take their course. And so it's really cool to see other people's funnels, I guess you could call it. And I enjoy being in that. I never, even though some of these video producers or people on video are saying, hey, buy my book, it's not offensive to me because I want to learn the content. It's like, well, yeah, I need to buy your book because I don't know what I'm doing. I want to get to where you are. So I think a lot of people do feel bad about selling when they shouldn't feel bad, because your audience wants more information, whether it's free or paid. And when it's paid, it's put together in a nice format. So that's just, anyway, a side tangent that I've been kind of going through.
You're so right. I mean, we are trying to make a living. Yes, I want to be helpful and show up and provide value to people, but I also need to pay my electricity bill.
Of course. Yeah.
So I think it's just sort of we were talking earlier about sort of that hard sell approach of like the used car salesman or whatnot. And that's just not what people respond to.
Yeah.
But when you're offering, legitimate value to somebody, there's no reason you should feel awkward about asking for hey, by the way, you can spend some money with me if you'd like.
Yeah. No, and it's one of those, for one of them, they actually don't have a course. I'm like, man, I should maybe reach out to this guy. I bought his ebook. I need to encourage him to make a course. But anyway, that's another conversation. Well, hey, Carrie, tell me again where the audience can go and find your courses.
Yeah, it's thefearlessfreelancer.com. You can find the courses there. And if you try to leave the site, I will show you a little pop-up that has that free e-course that Jeff and I were just talking about. Also, if that's too big of a commitment, just go over to Facebook and do a search for The Fearless Freelancer. And got a free Facebook group over there. Would love to just have you. And we're having conversations about, issues that matter to people who work for themselves.
Awesome. Well, Carrie, thanks for talking about WordPress, talking about Lynda, and just your experience. I know I've actually learned quite a bit myself, and I know the audience has as well. So thanks for being on the Online Course Coach podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff. I enjoyed it.
Well, there you go. That was the interview with Carrie Dills. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Like I said at the beginning, when I heard that she had the background of website development, that she has been a Lynda.com instructor, that she has her own courses, I knew that she would have a lot of really good stuff to say. So what are you going to do with this interview? I want to encourage you, if you're not sure where to host your courses, or maybe you are thinking, hey, what's this WordPress thing and how can I use it for my own courses? You definitely need to go to the resource section on my website. So go to onlinecoursecoach.com/resources, where I have quite a few resources, but the two that I think will apply best to this interview is the one about about the best plugins, themes, and hosting that I recommend for WordPress, and then the 7-step checklist to know the best software to use to build your course. And then also I have a couple other interviews where we dive into WordPress. So if you're interested in the topic, just go to the website. Obviously, it's onlinecoursecoach.com. If you go to the podcast tab, there's a search bar in the right-hand sidebar. And you can just search WordPress, and you'll find interviews from people like Joshua Millage, Corey Miller, as well as several podcasts that I've done about things like the best WordPress tips for course creators, 7 ways to pick the perfect LMS for your online course, and so much more. So even though I'm a big fan of WordPress, it's definitely not always the best or only solution. So I definitely want to give a fair and balanced, I guess, as it were, approach to which learning management system is best. And so there's a lot of resources on the website. And then lastly, if you are in the process of creating your course or you're about to, you definitely want to create effective course videos, because that's such a huge component of your course, right? You don't want to have boring videos or ineffective videos, or you don't want to feel uncomfortable or awkward in front of the camera. So definitely check out easyvideoforcourses.com. Get that course and you'll be up to speed in no time. I purposefully made the content easy to learn, efficient to go through. We're not talking about an 80-hour course here. We're talking about a very efficient course that will get you in, get you the information you really need. You can pick and choose. You don't even have to watch all the modules if you don't want. Just pick the ones that apply to you. So again, go to easyvideoforcourses.com to check that out and get the course. All right, well, hey, I have several more interviews coming up, some good shows coming up, so definitely check those out as they're coming in. And let me know what course you're working on. What are you struggling with? What are you succeeding with? And how can I help? So just go to the website, drop me a message, and let me know what's going on in your world as well. Well, thanks for coming back to another episode of this podcast. I love interviewing other course creators, bringing these tips to you. Because as you know, like I say every time I close my podcast, it is my goal to help you, to teach many, to impact millions.